All right, I think we're good. I hope we can hear some audio. Yeah. So, uh, Mary?
Hi.
Oh, great. So, thank you for bearing with us. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty today. So I just wanted to say welcome to Coffee with KBLIC. It's the last one for the season before we head into the winter holidays, but I just wanted to say welcome everybody. So today we're just going to talk about what is Coffee with KBLIC. By now, if you've been following along, this is episode 10, I think. Yeah, something like that. I don't know, Mary. You tell me.
It is episode 10.
Oh, thank you. Um, Episode 10. Basically, this is a conversation space for people to have about community resources. My name is Amber, and I'm a business and technology librarian here at the Kirstein Business Library. And today, me and my colleague Mary Devine, who's the workforce development librarian, are going to talk to you about how to jumpstart your career at BPL. And so we're going to talk about some of the services that we have today, as well as your questions. And like if folks tweeted with the hashtag Coffee with KBLIC, we can show your coffee cups. And in fact, on the screen, I'm going to pull up how to contact us. So let's go back to the agenda and we can talk a little bit. So say hi, Mary.
Hello there.
Yeah. So, Mary, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Mary and I have worked together for the last 4 years in the department, something like that. Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah. So Mary is our workforce development librarian. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of some of the stuff that you do?
So, some of the things that I do programming, career related programming in
Mm-hmm.
it. For the Kirstein Business Library and Innovation Center. I welcome anybody from anywhere in the state to attend our programs. We also do resume and cover letter reviews. Oh, and I'll talk a little bit more about the programs in a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
we do resume and cover letter reviews. You can send in your resumes. We prefer as a doc, but we work
Mm-hmm.
with the PDF. We also do interview interview prep. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have any job related questions, we can help you with that. Post pandemic, we do have a great collection for career resources. And yeah, so, and we also do have a research guide, something called a lib guide that assists people with their search. So that's a quick overview.
Cool. So I just popped up our webpage and then I also popped into the chat just for resume help. People can email ask@bpl.org. So you help a lot of folks with resumes, correct?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I I look at everything from the grammatical writing to the format. We People have variety. They're coming from a variety of backgrounds, whether they've written
Mm-hmm.
resumes before or if it's been 20 plus years since they've written a resume and that has completely changed, or they may be coming
Oops.
from a foreign country.
I was going to say, what are some common pitfalls that you see? While I pull up the career events that we
Sure.
have.
Excellent. So some of the pitfalls that I've
Mm-hmm.
found with the resumes, sometimes people will use, if they're using Microsoft Word or they may
Mm-hmm.
be using a pre-formatted template, there's
Yeah.
headers and there's something called the ATS or the automated tracking software where
Mm-hmm.
companies will people will send in their resumes via anything like from Indeed or one of those kind of websites, and the tracking software puts in a whole queue thing um, based off of keyword. But if somebody puts their name
Mm-hmm.
in, their contact information in as a header,
Mm-hmm.
it completely wipes off. So what they see
Oh.
is somebody's great resume, but they have no idea who it belongs to.
Oh,
And
so
so
using the heading in Microsoft Word is actually bad, using the header and footer?
The header and footer is not a
Oh.
good thing. If you use a footer, say to put a page, it's no biggie. If you use a header for the second page that says your name with,
Mm-hmm.
a page number, it's not going to bounce you out for that. But if your main contact information, the heading, so it'll have your name, um, phone number, email,
Mm-hmm.
um, LinkedIn account if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will put their city and town,
Mm-hmm.
don't need to put your address. If you put that in a header, that's gone. So there's no way for the people to contact, and it's all computer based, unfortunately. So somebody may have the best resume on the planet and may be the best candidate for the position, but because of this ATS, they get bounced out. That's the first thing that bounces them out,
I
and
didn't
it's
realize
pretty
that.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So headers and footers. I mean, like I said, a
Because I
footer is
use
not going to do.
those.
Yes, I used to use them too,
Yeah.
until I've taken a lot of the classes. There's a website called jobscan.co,
Mm-hmm.
and that website will talk about all about ATS. And you also have a way of scanning your resume versus the job description. And they'll give you suggestions on what you need to change
Okay. So I just
to
pulled
make it
that
fit.
up just so people can
Excellent.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really useful website for just checking. I know that they do the first one. I think it's free. They may give you a couple, but I do think after that they do start to charge you for using their materials.
Right.
They do give some sample resumes there. They also give a guide as well for
Mm-hmm.
resumes, CVs, the whole bit. So um, it's a really useful website
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
That's cool. I just popped that in the chat so people have access to it.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, having a heading is different than a header, which
Mm-hmm.
is the software. So, um, yeah. So that's one of the first pitfalls of a resume.
Mm-hmm.
Another one might be that people forget to change. Well, you want to use active verbs, but they might also forget to change when they change jobs. So
Mm-hmm.
they've a job is ended for whatever reason. They've they forget to change it to the past tense, and
Oh,
so
yep.
they've got some mixtures of
Mm-hmm.
tenses: past tense, present tense, um, and that kind of reflects on sometimes with grammar, and they start to worry about, well, can this person write a decent sentence? The third thing that comes up
Mm-hmm.
is resumes should have tangible numbers as much as
Yeah.
possible. So you're not writing a list of your job description that you would get from, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what you saw on the original job posting or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have tangibles, and the tangibles are usually showing your key accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the key on resumes, is showing your key accomplishments. um, and the other kind of things is
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to squish everything into one page just to make it fit. You want to make sure that there is white space so people can write notes on it, and they also need it to be readable. So don't use a 9 font just to squeeze it in when 11 font is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure today, especially with everybody being, there's a lot of people working from home, they're working on devices, a whole variety of different
Mm-hmm.
things. And you want to make sure that they are, oh, I lost my thought. You want to make sure that they
Mm-hmm.
are not going blind with it.
It's
So,
okay. We dropped a bunch of frames for some reason. I don't know
yeah, I
why.
noticed that.
Ah,
But we're
so
back.
yeah. So that was a
So,
little weird.
yeah, it's just technology is a fun thing.
I don't know. There's a retrograde or something going on. So I,
Yes,
yeah. But so to recap, basically, be mindful of what happens with the applicant tracking software. So
exactly.
don't put a header or footer. Make sure you have tangible numbers in your resume, and just be mindful of when you are ending a job to change things to past tense.
Oh,
Um,
and don't squish everything onto one page.
yes. Um, Sometimes people put too much. How do you know what to get rid of off of a resume?
Well, one of the things is they usually use the guideline of about 10 years. Don't go back
Okay.
more than 10 years. So 2010 is usually the cutoff right now.
Mm-hmm.
You could go back a few more years before that. And this is just for regular corporate or non-federal jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Federal jobs, you have to put everything. But for regular non-federal jobs, 10 years is usually the key. Um, you and yeah, you have to know you need to look at make sure that you're not posting your job description, that you're posting key accomplishments or key tasks that you've done that will show that you have the skills available for this particular company that you're applying for.
Sure. So, can you give me an example of like, how I would write something on my resume, for example? Uh,
So
I
uh,
teach classes, so maybe
yeah,
that's something.
yeah. So you can
Mm-hmm.
you facilitate you well you also create and
Mm-hmm.
facilitate curriculum um, for teaching classes on technology.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in there you also want to fit in number of technology classes per year,
Mm-hmm.
averaging how many people per class,
Oh,
and
that's a good
then
idea.
yeah, so
I didn't even
you
think
know
about that. Ah.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
libraries, it's a little different with courses. When we get 5 or 6 people in a class, if it's a really great class, that's a really great 5 or 6 people,
Oh, I
especially if
know.
they're connected and things like that. Sometimes when there's too many people, y- people lose that disconnect with the teacher. So unless there's an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a number. If you had to deal with any kind of budgets,
Oh, yep.
if you were dealing with a technology budget in
Mm-hmm.
Kirstein, for instance, you managed a certain dollar figure, or
Mm-hmm.
if you knew you had a certain, not, just basically it's you want to numbers, percentages, averages, dollar figures,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So that's usually the key for that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go through and state exactly what you should put as your resume.
Yeah.
Posting is your key accomplishment, but those are some of the things, the highlights to keep an eye out for.
So I shouldn't just put something like teach classes. I should put, something a little bit
Y-
more thoughtful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you do, especially if you design curriculum and facilitate the courses,
Mm.
those are some of the things that you want to use. If you're looking at a job description, they use keywords, and you may want to look at some of the keywords. So if you're looking at an instructor's type position,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of wording do they use as a keyword um, to include in that sentence? And that's another thing to bring up with the ATS as well, is that ATS also looks at the number of keywords from their job description that you use, and they choose how that the keywords rank.
Mm-hmm.
So they may use the word facilitate, but they may give it a ranking of 10, whereas you might have it higher, or they may have it as 80% because that's more important for the position. So we
Mm-hmm.
have no clue how they've decided their ranking in the ATS for the keywords, but definitely sometimes if you're looking for a verb or something like that, that's a great place to take a look at as the job description.
So what you kind of described is a little like horrifying and dystopian. Essentially, an AI is telling people interview this person which is just
Yes, it's not exactly, I mean, I can understand it from two points of view. I can understand it from the corporate side where they're inundated with resumes,
Mhm.
especially now. So they're
Mm.
inundated with resumes and they just don't have the time to go through every resume to, pick and choose who they
Mhm.
want to send on for an interview. But
Mhm.
at the same point, this AI is also sometimes not picking great candidates just because they used a different keyword. And
Yeah.
that to me, I have an issue with that. And I've
Yeah.
had an issue with it since I found out about ATS.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard. I mean, in a sense, you almost have to play the game,
Yeah.
even though, I mean, there are ways to kind of work with it. So, I mean, you always want to create a resume template to start with, and
Yep.
then look at the job descriptions or look at multiple job descriptions and see what the keywords are for them. And
Especially
then
if you're transitioning, right?
exactly.
From industry.
Transitioning, yeah,
Mhm.
or even within the same industry.
Mhm.
And what the job title you had, it may have a different job title now.
Yep.
So, looking at a whole variety of different job descriptions just to get an idea of what are the key words, key things that they're
Mhm.
looking for in those positions.
Sure. So I actually just pulled up the job seekers guide, just so people can see it, and I put it on the resume page, and I dropped it in the chat. But
Excellent.
yeah, so can you tell a little bit more about some of the services that we do at Kirstein Business Library and at the Boston Public Library for career development?
So while we are closed, we are
Hmm.
doing tons of programs for career development. Right now, we actually have a series with Gary G. Cow, who is doing a career series. He started in November, and
Hmm.
he'll be finishing up the second week in February. A whole series of one programs, including, and for this month, we're concentrating on the interviewing process.
Yep. So I have that
Um,
one up. There's one tomorrow night, but it looks like there's a wait list.
but that's okay. Do definitely still apply because I generally accept everybody on the wait list. Because the more people that can get in these
Hmm.
workshops, the better. He does, in case you decide, wait list, you're concerned, he does provide these workshops throughout Eastern Massachusetts.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so, but you may not necessarily get all of the same workshops. We chose just about every one of his workshops except
Hmm.
for one of his ones that were geared toward graduating seniors,
Okay.
that was and their parents. It didn't quite fit us, but it might fit another department,
Okay.
such as Teen Central. But I've seen it show up in different parts of the state. So
Okay.
um, the other things that we do, definitely the resume reviews.
Hmm.
We actually will. We can either do it via email if someone wants to do a face-to-face chat about their resume.
Hmm.
We'll set up a Zoom call for that. So we kind of try and come to where you are.
Right.
Um, Unfortunately, right now we're not doing face-to-face,
Hmm.
and that's one of the things that I do miss is the face-to-face helping with people. But we will get back to that at some point in 2021,
We
probably.
hope.
We hope. I see a light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm looking forward to that.
I appreciate
Um,
your optimism, honestly.
yes, I'm hoping.
Mm.
There is a vaccine, so um, the other thing we do is the other courses we do, tech courses,
Mm-hmm.
and those are skill development, even if it's Canva. Well, there might be there, you actually did a workshop on Canva at one point
A couple
that you put
points.
a couple of points. And even though they might be making a holiday card,
Mm-hmm.
you can create your own business card. One thing I will say is don't use the resume templates on Canva. They are
Ah,
very
yep.
pretty. If you're going face to face with with an interview,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful resumes. But for Using that ATS, hold off on that.
Okay.
Um, but Canva is
Mm-hmm.
a really great useful tool for creating um, the free. You can do it on a free side. There's the professional, and you can
Sure.
create. Um,
We can link that tutorial too. So,
yeah,
but
so there's lots of things, multimedia things you can post. So if you're a marketing person
mhm.
and you need to create something for social media, it's out there.
Yeah, I like
So
Canva a lot. I've taught a couple
yeah,
of classes about it. I have one on Facebook Live. I actually do have one on YouTube. I was going to
yeah.
say, like,
I
we have
mean,
lynda.com too, which is another great
yes,
resource. And I'll pull
definitely.
that up. It's one
Yeah,
of those
Linda.
things. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the training is there for you
Hmm.
to, I don't know if they have one for Canva, but they have like for other resources. So if you need to put skills on your resume, um, look, you need to practice your Office 365 skills, or you
Yes.
need to do Salesforce or something like that.
You
Um,
can say you're familiar with it at least.
exactly, which
Yeah.
is better than not having any experience at all and going
Yeah.
into um, a particular
Hmm.
job without having the knowledge of it, and that being one of the
Hmm.
key things that they have. And there's a variety. They also have resume writing,
Hmm.
interviewing. They have elevator pitches, which are great for interviews.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so there's a variety of things on Linda that I would highly suggest
Yeah.
for using for
For skill
job related research.
building.
Yeah, skill
Yeah.
building. Even there's a thing on mindfulness, which
Mm.
we all could use right now.
Oh, yeah.
Not just for those who are applying for jobs, but also for people who are working from home, people who are going into the office and
Mhm.
just need to kind of not stress so much. So, yeah, it's a great resource.
So, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are some recommendations you could make to someone who has a family member who is struggling to find a job?
Um, so they can suggest for them to contact the
Mm-hmm.
library. We can always set up a meeting. It can be on the phone as well. I didn't mention that, but we can do something on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the things I usually tell people
Mm-hmm.
to, one, if they're looking for names of position titles and things like that, and they're stuck, to check
Mm-hmm.
onetonline.org or the Occupational Outlook Handbook
Mm-hmm.
online. And that can give you some ideas of different job titles, especially when you're searching and there's just so much out there. One of my favorite search tools is actually Google, because it is that meta crawler where it pulls in from a whole variety of different job posting websites. So if you're looking for a job in the nonprofit world and you know the name, if you're looking for grant writer in the not, for nonprofits, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually put grant writer nonprofit, and then you can limit to where, oh, in jobs, and you can limit to where you want it to be. You can broaden, so they usually start with the near me, and that's usually within 20-30 miles of where you live.
Yeah, I just did a search and it'll pop up for you. You'll probably see it in a few minutes. But
Yeah, so,
yeah, I
there's a
did data
variety of different.
analyst.
Yeah, data analyst is a big one right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a variety of different words used for data analysts, but data analyst jobs for nonprofits. When you click on the blue bar,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see some top postings, but when you click on the blue bar, it will populate
Mm.
with it in sort of a more
Oh, I wouldn't have
linear
thought to
way.
do that,
Yeah,
honestly.
so
Oh,
it
wow.
helps. And then by clicking on
Huh.
it, then you can do the limit. You can give a location. You can say, well, I want a work from home job. I want, a
Mm-hmm.
variety of different things. What I like with this is it pulls up some of the um, obscure job posting sites that you wouldn't necessarily think about when you are looking for a job. And
Okay.
it also tells you where the job is posted. So, you know, couple of things you can do with that is looking at Glassdoor helps you with salary and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I saw that was one of the things that came up.
Mm-hmm.
You can apply directly there. You can apply however you want to do it. There's just so many different things. One of the things when you're looking at that, this job posting, is look at the date that how far out it's been. If it's been more than 30 days, there's a good chance they may have already hired for that position.
So this one I have up is like 28 days, so I'm assuming like
Well,
it's questionable, but you
yeah,
would
I mean,
still throw your hat in.
yeah, throw your hat in, doesn't hurt, but
Mm-hmm.
don't be surprised if they've already filled the position.
Yeah.
But then, I've heard some people where, it just comes up.
Yeah.
So, I actually know that organization
So that's funny.
that you pulled up.
Yeah.
So,
Dropping
and
frames today. I don't know why. I
yeah,
just saw
so
that.
so far we're doing good with from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm just getting the
Um,
report, so that's funny.
oh,
Ugh.
okay, but it looks fine so far.
Okay.
So anyways, that's a great place to
Mm-hmm.
start. Um, you know, always contact the library. You can either call the 617-536-5400 number, and the person who answers the phone, they may not necessarily be a career librarian, but what they can do is take a message for you
Mm-hmm.
and say which is the best way to get back to you, and
Yeah.
everything can go that way. So if you're only if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have access to the internet, we do try and meet you where we can meet you. Unfortunately, if you don't have a phone, then we're kind of out of luck with that. But a lot of people,
Yeah.
so the people who are looking
Mm-hmm.
right there, the people who are watching this, who are
Mm-hmm.
helping their friends, their family, whoever, there's a variety of different ways to get in touch with us to help
Mm-hmm.
us. And I do most of the reviews, but my colleagues, we have some colleagues who have really great specialties in other areas,
Mm-hmm.
and they may pick up a resume because it it just pings to them and like, yes, I must help them. Um,
I
we
need to
also
do one
have
right now.
we all need to, well, it's always good to revise your resume to keep it up to date
Oh
anyways.
no, like I need to review someone's resume. They're waiting.
Oh yes, we can talk about that later. uh, but you know, we also do have the Community Learning Center. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're looking for skills, if you need basic skills or you have family that needs basic skills, they're a great department to contact. We don't have their number right directly, but you could still call the 617-536-5400
Mm-hmm.
number, and they can actually get you in touch with them. So they do teach basic skills.
Like how to use the
Um,
internet and things
how,
like that.
yeah, how to do a basic Microsoft Word.
Mm-hmm.
They've done the using Google Docs to
Mm-hmm.
write resumes. So they've got some of the basics. They also review some of the resumes for people who English is not their first language.
Yep.
We do too, but they've Marta and Jess have really specialized, and
Mm-hmm.
also some of the other people have specialized in looking at resumes that are for people who don't speak English as a first language. And sometimes people will be referred to from our literacy
Mm-hmm.
department. The literacy department, they're great for people who need to build on their English skills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually, I just saw that new JavaScript. I hope that's the new one because I
Mm-hmm.
might take that learning circle. Thank you very much. Um, so the learning center is great. The literacy services is great for people who, need to build their English language skills.
Yep.
Um,
So I'm just gonna pop that in the chat just
yeah,
because like we do help folks at all levels, and the
exactly.
literacy services staff are great folks to get to
They're
know. They
amazing.
have a writing specialist
Yep.
that or is she writing specialist? I forget what she
Jenna
is.
is a writing
Yep.
specialist. And when we had face to face work, she would help people with writing anything. reviewing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need something reviewed, she used to be the person. So I'm not sure if she's back from maternity leave yet, but
Mm-hmm.
she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's just so positive. And
But
Melissa
people,
is great too.
yes, but people can always email ask@bpl.org. I just pulled that up on the screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ask at bpl.org, call 617-536-5400, and you
Mm-hmm.
can ask for the specific department. Um, so the library has a variety of different
Mm-hmm.
services, and there are things that in the branches they offer as
Mm-hmm.
well. Sometimes, right now, their programming is live or is online and not in person.
Mm-hmm.
But they want people to succeed as much as we want people to succeed. So and
Mm-hmm.
that's our ultimate goal, no
Yeah.
matter what. Even just learning Canva, if they learn that and it helps them in a job, they that they've succeeded.
Do you
So
have yeah, do you have recommendations for someone who's never written a resume or it's been like 40 years since they've written one?
I have a few
Mm-hmm.
different recommendations. We do have some websites listed on our job seekers guide,
Okay.
and so you can link from there. Jobscan.co that we talked about earlier does have a
Mm-hmm.
resume guide as well, and so it can give some suggestions on how to write a resume.
Mm-hmm.
You can also borrow books from the library. We do the BPL
To
to
go.
go at this point. And just make sure that the books are pretty current. I would say from 2018 current. Um, Writing a resume might be a little bit back. If you're doing a federal resume, you can look at an older book that they haven't changed anything on that. I will say that. So federal jobs, long resumes. Um, Other things,
Ooh, that's not good.
when you're if you don't have your copy of your resume from 20 years ago, which
Mm-hmm.
many of us didn't when we were doing our resumes like 10 years ago, um, like just get all your materials together, get the names of the businesses, write it down if you're a writer,
Mm-hmm.
type it down if you're a typer. Um, have all that information ready to go when you're ready to start your
Mm-hmm.
resume, because otherwise when you're fiddling around trying to get all that information together, you're going to go it's just going to be too overwhelming and you're going to shut down. So the first thing to do is to get all the names of the businesses, the years that you worked there, those kind of things. Get that started. Even if you don't fill in the meat, at least you've got something started.
Yeah. Ooh, I have
Um,
a question for you.
yes. Okay.
Um, let's say you don't remember the exact time frame you worked at a particular place.
Um, well, if you figure you roughly
Mm-hmm.
worked there, say between 2008 and 2012,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need the dates.
Okay.
You can just put the years. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you have months and years, you want to make sure that's consistent down the line. But
Okay.
years themselves is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
When a lot of places for contact type stuff, they'll contact the company where you worked at. They'll
Mm-hmm.
verify your employment
Mm-hmm.
dates. So if you're a little off, they're not going to freak out. I mean, if you're a lot off, obviously they're going to freak out, because where did your brain go for the last 20 years? But if you and that happens to us too. We get
Mm-hmm.
brain farts. It happens, especially as we get older and we have multiple job companies. One thing I want to say with people who do consulting work,
Yep.
you can actually say you're a consultant and then you can list some of the key places that you worked for if you wanted to do that.
Oh.
So, or if you're looking to, fill in blanks and just say, you can also do it individually, but just
Mm-hmm.
use the word consultant. Um, Even if you volunteered for a position, so say you
Mm-hmm.
have a break because you are a stay at home parent
Right.
or a stay at home child who's taking care of a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those breaks, if you did any kind of volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
um, that can be considered. You don't necessarily need to put that down in the volunteer section. You can actually put that up in the work section.
Okay.
You've built skills in that particular place. You can always, if you feel compelled,
Mm-hmm.
to say that it's a volunteer, you can put it in parentheses. But it helps when filling in some of the gaps,
Mm-hmm.
just to let people know that you've done things. If you don't have time to volunteer, but maybe you kept up on the literature or training, did
Mm-hmm.
professional development online, especially now, um, those are skill building, and you can add that on your resume as well under the education section, or depending on where your education is, if it's listed at the end, you can also put education and then professional development to something separate or whatever, list it down, so that people know that you've taken the time to keep up with your skills. um,
Speaking of
if you're
education. Ooh.
well, one thing I was going to say, if you're scrambling now,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's okay. Start learning, start doing
Mm-hmm.
lynda.com videos or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that that can help you build your skills. General Assembly has things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Ooh, I have a question for you. Speaking
Yes.
of
Okay.
education and, maybe folks who are taking care of their parents or any other sort of thing. So there are gaps in a resume, but how do you also age proof a resume? Because
Well,
that's.
one of the things is,
Mm-hmm.
for your college, you want to put down that you have your degrees. You don't put your high school down. Um, but don't put the year of graduation down.
You
If
can
they
get
want to
away
cop,
with that.
you can get away with that.
Okay.
If it's within the last 3, 4 years, I mean, some people have worked on their degree while they were at
Mm-hmm.
home taking care of whoever.
Mm-hmm.
I would not put down if it's the past more than 3 years, 3 to 5 years. I wouldn't put the date of graduation down.
Really?
Yep.
Because I've left mine on. So,
Yep. At this point, you can leave it off.
oh,
Well,
oh no,
you
I've
have,
hit that. Well, I have one
well, no,
degree I
you
can
have
put
one
on.
that you, yes. So
Yeah.
one degree you can actually keep, but the rest of them, don't worry about that
I've hit
because,
that point, huh?
yeah, you've hit that point. And mostly because what it is right now is your skills that you've learned on
Mm-hmm.
the job, the core competencies, your skill sets, whatever that you put on the top, you actually have gained that in your job, or in professional development. So that's why you don't need to worry about so much of having everything down for education
Mm-hmm.
there. Some people will still put awards. You don't need to unless it's something that's super amazing. You can write down was on the dean's list 4 years straight or something like
Or I was
that.
gonna say honor societies, because sometimes people look for like
Yep.
membership in
Well,
those.
what you can
Yeah.
do is put honor societies, colon, and the name of the honor societies,
Yeah.
whatever they are.
I didn't
Um,
make those, but I'm just
I
saying
didn't
for.
either. But for people who did, definitely,
Good
and
for you.
especially definitely depending on the type of position you're going for. Being in not being in, and I have to say, not being in an honor society does not make you less of of a worker. You are, people who work there work hard and they learn and they continue to learn, which is the goal of with working. We always want to find something every day that we
Mm-hmm.
learn something new, and that's the key.
Mm-hmm. So there's something. So like, when should you take your GPA off? Because sometimes I deal with kids who just left from undergrad. So
If
I
they've just
usually.
list from undergrad, they can leave their GPA on,
Okay.
especially if it's a higher GPA. If
Mm-hmm.
it's a 3.0, I'd probably say no at this point, but maybe if it's like a 3.75 or higher, 3.61 maybe, but like my undergraduate was 3.2
Oh
because I
wow.
had one class that mucked up everything. um but
Oh,
yeah.
Mary.
Yeah, well, I missed the pass fail deadline. So so I was taking it as a night course, so, and
Oh, okay.
it just messed up everything.
Oh, Mary.
But that was undergrad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put my GPA now
Ooh, I
anyways.
wouldn't put my GPA now either.
But even for my grad school, I wouldn't put my GPA
Mm-hmm.
either. Actually, I don't even think I remember what my GPA is for. I know it had to be at least over a 3.0 because otherwise I would have been kicked out of the program.
I know, right?
Yeah, so it's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
like say for instance, if I decided I actually did finish the accounting prerequisites and went to UMass Lowell to get one of the
Mm-hmm.
master's degrees, the second master's,
Mm-hmm.
I might put that date down.
Okay.
And they do require a pretty decent GPA to
Mm-hmm.
maintain. So I would probably put that down.
Okay, cool.
So, but it just everything is kind of a case by case basis.
So
Unfortunately,
there's
there's
no one
no.
size fits all resume, is what you're telling me.
Well, I would say for people who have been out of school for more than 3 years, three to
Mm-hmm.
5 years,
Drop it to the bottom.
you, well, you put the education on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
don't put the dates. For people who are just recently graduated, that's one of your keys. You want to put that up at the top. You also want to highlight some of the courses you took
Mm-hmm.
that are relevant to the job you're posting for.
Because you probably actually, most of the folks graduating from school, unless they were a non traditional student, probably don't have a lot of the real world experience. So highlighting some of the relevant courses is definitely
Exactly.
important.
And then
Yeah.
if they had an internship,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes they may not have, yeah, the real world experience.
Mm-hmm.
So they can put their internship as their, you know, experience,
Experience.
right?
Yeah.
Because an internship,
Mm-hmm.
you are working, you
Yeah.
are gaining skills, but it's you're not sitting in school, but it is a real job. Just you may or may not get paid for it. So, but it may lead to a future
You're
job, which
paid
is
in
even better.
credit.
You're paid
Nah.
in sometimes you're paid in credit, but sometimes you're paid in cash and credit.
Okay.
There are internships that
Mm-hmm.
people sometimes take after they graduate
Mm-hmm.
because they want to get that real world experience.
Oh, interesting.
Especially people in like the biotech field,
Oh, yeah. That
in
makes sense
computer
in STEMs.
industry,
Yeah.
yeah, especially the STEM industry. So they a lot of times will go for the
Mm-hmm.
internships at least to get them started,
Mm-hmm.
to get that hands-on experience. So that way they're a little bit more marketable when they go for a bigger,
Mm-hmm.
more full-time job.
Sure. So we
So,
have about
I,
10 minutes
oh, cool,
left. Yeah.
excellent.
So I was going to say, we didn't have too many questions in the chat, but I was going to go back to this notion about templates. Now, you said
Yes.
not to use a template, but then you said make a template. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So when you're in Google Docs, in Microsoft Word,
Yep.
Canva, things like that, they have pre-formatted pretty
Mm-hmm.
resume things where you can plug in information. That's a template that you don't want to use.
Yep.
But creating a resume, just using typing in Docs, Google
Yep.
Docs, or in Microsoft Word or whatever Apple has, um, using that could be a template. So that means that it's easily editable,
Yeah. So what you're
which
saying is don't use any of the fixed templates, just type out what you want to put in there and just
that's
format it yourself.
that's the best way
Mm-hmm.
for the automatic tracking software, the ATS. If you use now, when you look at jobscan.co, there
Mm-hmm.
are some, they have templates that you can fill in the blanks, but those are ones that have been they've gone through the ATS and they've been shown to
Mm-hmm.
go through the ATS. So that's what the difference is, between a pretty, what I call a pretty template,
Mm-hmm.
and a template that basically it's a working document.
Yep.
So that I think is the better word to use, as a working
Yep.
document as opposed to a template. But some people will call it a template. But
Mm-hmm.
think of it as a working document. It's a
Mm-hmm.
work in progress. And it's much easier to edit in the long run if you don't use any of the funky bells and whistles.
Yes.
um, you can use columns for your skills so you can save space.
Mm-hmm.
You can adjust your margins, but don't use like, don't try and menuize it, because it makes it harder to change your resume
Can you
from
use
from
tables?
personal experience. Tables are 50-50 still with
Because I have
with
a table at the top of
ATS.
mine, so that's why I was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would use columns
Okay.
instead of a table
All
just
right.
because it's a 50-50. But I think it depends on where you're applying for, you
Okay.
know. And
I was just curious
if you're
because like I
applying
just
for
thought of that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean if you're applying for something
Hmm.
internal in your company or something
Yeah.
like that, you don't probably have to go through the ATS. So a table, they're not going to see that, or they might, depending on how it's sent.
Hmm.
Um, the old way we used to in the libraries, we used to print out a copy and attach it to a PAR, and there you go. Now it's kind of done all digitally, especially with working remotely.
Yeah.
So, they actually, at
Ooh.
one point, the PAR used to be in triplicate. So, and we had to use a
Oh,
typewriter.
Mary.
Yes, I
Yes.
have dated myself there, but that's okay. But
But
that's just to show.
I have a question though. File
Oh, wonderful.
formats.
Yeah, file formats.
Mm-hmm.
File formats. Best. The way I usually say is save it as a
Mm.
docx
Yep.
and a pdf.
Yep.
Um,
So you want both.
both. The PDF will allow you to see what it's going to look like when
Mm-hmm.
someone goes to print it out, and the doc basically is your working document. It's your editable document.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people do have access to editable PDFs. Just be careful because sometimes things go a little wonky when you start adjusting things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always good to see what the final product is
Mm-hmm.
going to look like because you never know. Sometimes something goes weird on Microsoft Word or Docs, and
Yep.
you don't know if there's a weird tab in there that you didn't know, and it throws off all the dates. So
Yes.
it's just useful to use to save things as a .pdf. And all
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Word, Google Docs, the Apple products, they all have the options to save it both files,
Mm-hmm.
and which is good. And then when you go to send a job application, look at the instructions, follow the instructions. If they
Yes.
don't say what file to put it
Mm-hmm.
in, send it as a PDF.
Okay.
If they tell you to send it as a doc, send it as a doc.
Yep.
Sometimes they want you to actually put your cover letter, which we didn't talk about because some places don't need cover letters now. But they may want you to put your cover letter and your resume in one file when you send it. So follow the instructions, and when in doubt, talk to somebody, contact the company, and
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't see a file for my cover letter. Do you need it, or do you
Mm-hmm.
want it as one file? Um,
So I brought
yeah.
up the cover letters on here because we've been talking about on the job seekers guide, but I also linked to some of the Facebook live streams you did earlier this summer on
Yes.
resume writing and interviewing and cover letters, I believe.
Yes.
So I
So
just popped those in there. Those are on our Facebook live.
yep.
Um,
So,
yeah.
we did those over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be eventually posting them to
YouTube, so it's a little
YouTube.
bit easier to
Yeah,
get
so
to.
that people who don't have Facebook can get access to
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, so we have a variety of different options for people. And I think on the job seekers guide, there is Marta's using Google Docs for a resume. So
Mm-hmm.
so that one is out there as well.
Is the video linked on there? I don't see
The
it.
video, oh, it was linked. It goes, it comes, it goes. So I'll double check it again to see what's
Oh,
going on
weird.
with it. But it was linked at one point.
But I have it up. I'll put it up. You'll see it in a couple seconds. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But like
Mm-hmm.
the Job Seekers Guide is also a
Mm-hmm.
work in progress as well. As we learn new information in the
Mm-hmm.
career world, we add more information or adjust our information. So
Sure.
we add links, so we might
Mm-hmm.
remove a website because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
So,
Or
yeah.
add stuff. Ooh, I have a question for you. Ha,
Yes.
since I'm looking at the job seekers guide right now, any local
Yes.
organizations you want to recommend?
So, some of the local organizations that I would recommend are Mass Hire Downtown Boston
Mm-hmm.
Career Center.
Okay.
I took at the beginning of our work from home every workshop they had just
Mm-hmm.
about. Um, so I could build up more of my skills. And also, it helped train me for doing Zoom workshops.
Mm.
Another organization that I would suggest for people who need some skill, if they're looking to change careers, if they're looking for, um, just different things, is JVS,
Mm-hmm.
who is associated with Mass Hire
Mm-hmm.
downtown Boston, but they're separate from it. And so they do things like Bridges to College workshops. They have an early childhood program. They have a biotech program. The biotech program gets them prepared so that they could go on to taking courses at the community colleges and or get a basic entry level and go from there.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
great program. And I just popped both of those in the chat
yeah,
for people. So if they wanted to check those out, are those programs free?
they are free.
Oh, wow.
And for Mass Hire downtown Boston, you don't necessarily have to be out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
They work with the Department of Unemployment Insurance, but they are, they're great. They've
Okay.
got coaches and navigators and people.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people with resumes, always have more than one person review their resume, and
Yeah.
Mass Hire Downtown is great.
Yeah.
The last place that I wanted to talk about is, and there's so many, is the African Bridge Network.
Ah,
So
yes.
if you are a professional that came from Africa and you are looking to get a job that's very similar to what you used to do, or you need to get some accreditation and things like that, the African Bridge Network is an amazing organization. That Emmanuel is one of the people who runs it, and he is just such an amazing guy.
Yeah, I love
He
him.
wants
He's cool.
everybody, yes, he wants everybody to succeed.
Yeah.
So they do help people from other countries, but the key thing is Africa, Haiti, the Caribbean islands, places like that.
So I just popped that in the chat and let me pull it up.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. And they do career
Mm-hmm.
networking. They also help people, they want to make sure that people are not during COVID, that they're not dealing with financial insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So food insecurities, housing insecurity,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And they're a great people to talk to, especially if you are an immigrant from Africa or Haiti or one of the Caribbean islands or one of the islands just off of Africa. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
That's a cool
yeah,
resource that I don't think a lot of people necessarily know about.
no, but
Eh,
they're a great resource.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that turning potential into reality is great. They just did their annual report, so I think the video's out there, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some really inspiring stories listed there. So, and they're always looking for volunteers to help them with
Mm-hmm.
their career guidance.
Oh, that's cool. So if
So,
people are looking for volunteering opportunities, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, definitely. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what else would you like to know?
All right. So we have, well, since we started late, we can go a couple minutes over, but I was just gonna
Okay.
say, like, any final advice for anyone who's job hunting right now, because it's rough out there.
It is rough out there. You
We're
know,
here.
we are here.
Yeah.
We will not go away anytime soon. We do not plan on that. But make sure that you take time to breathe. You know, work job hunting, they say, is a full-time job, but full-time for you might be for a couple of days a week, might only be a couple of hours,
Mm-hmm.
or it might be 5 hours. It depends on what your bandwidth is, but make sure that you take time for you.
Yeah.
Take time, spend time with your family, even if it's on Zoom, or your friends on Zoom, or whatever. um, you know if you have hobbies, work on your hobbies, color, draw, scribble, whatever. Watch a sappy romance movie, watch a, a, a big action packed movie, whatever it, because you don't want it to be on your mind 24/7,
Yeah.
but it is your full-time job. But even with a full-time job, work-life balance. You want to make sure that,
Mm.
which of course I'm not always good with, but
Hey,
at
preach it to
the
the choir.
exactly. You want to make sure that at the end of the day that you kind of take a rest from it
Hmm.
so that you're not super stressing, because it does make a huge difference. If you're panicking, I mean, I know there are people who are panicking because, they're seeing their bank accounts are dropping lower and lower
Hmm.
as time goes on. You know, just know that there are organizations out there that will help you. There are
Hmm.
food distribution places. There are places that can help with rental assistance.
Hmm.
So, the key thing is breathe. Take some workshops either
Hmm.
here or with Mass Hire. Mass Hire does do a managing stress during the job
Hmm.
search. We did one during the summer, and I think we did one with Gary G. Cow at the beginning. So,
We did them with Joyce too.
yeah, Joyce's one was really good.
Yeah.
Joyce Mandela is actually, I'll plug out to her. She usually comes up once a year,
Hmm.
usually about September. So we do workshops from September to October with her. And she's also a career consultant
Hmm.
who we've worked with for a few years, and she has worked with so many different people. But she's from Florida, so if anyone from Florida is listening, hire her for some
Ooh.
Zoom workshops. She's ready and available. So,
That's
but
nice.
yes, so I had
Good
to put the
plug.
plug out for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that way she can afford to come back up here next fall to do some workshops. And we are working on her workshops to kind of bring them up a little bit more current.
Hmm.
We kind of did some of them in tandem. So with the resume workshop, she
Hmm.
had some great advice, and I had my little tips and tricks. And so
Cool.
yeah, so
So one last like tidbit. Do you want to give a shout out to any of the upcoming courses that we have? Because we have Gary's stuff coming out. You mentioned that at the beginning, but just for folks at the end.
yep.
Am.
So the courses we have for in December, we
Mm-hmm.
have the interview workshop part
Mm-hmm.
one, which is in person. Even though not everybody's doing in person, the same skills carry over.
It's
We do.
talking about in-person interviews. It's not in person, right?
It's talking about in-person
Just
interviews.
just
Yeah.
clarifying. Yeah.
But some of the skills will carry over to virtual
Mm-hmm.
interviews. The On December 15th, we are doing part two of the workshops, Tell Me About Yourself. On the 22nd, we are doing behavioral interviewing, and he will be doing asking people different questions as
Mm-hmm.
practice, and talking about the STAR method, which we do have, or we have one of the methods on our, or
Job
two of
seekers
them on
guide.
a job seeker's guide. In January, we have the importance of LinkedIn, which we didn't talk about, but it really is good to
Mm-hmm.
have a LinkedIn account, at least some social media presence out there.
I think it makes sense if
Yeah, I
depending on
mean,
the interest industry.
exactly.
If you're a truck driver, maybe not so much, but like not dissing any truck drivers. Like I'm
No,
just saying,
because they have different social media for that.
yeah,
So, they have websites and things.
yeah.
Then there's the online job search and resume submittal on January 12th,
Mhm.
and on January 19th, it's reinventing oneself in today's market.
Mhm.
Job market, which is a really important thing, especially for those whose industry has kind of dwindled a bit,
Mhm.
we'll say. We also have a one on avoiding age discrimination. So it's a workbook for boomers, but it also fits Gen Xers, because we're up there too. Um,
Hmm.
yes, the art of networking, which is great. That also links into that. Um, Elevator speech type stuff.
Mhm.
And then the salary and benefits negotiation is our last workshop. Many positions you could still negotiate some salary and benefits, whether that might be working from home a couple of days during a week, or, a variety of things. So Ideally, one would be salary and, things like that. But, you know, sometimes you have to look at, if I'm not driving into work, how much am I saving? So,
Yeah.
and those are great resources. One thing I didn't mention, and we do have a link to it, is the Association of University American Association of University Women has a salary negotiation online self-paced workshop, and that's linked on our job seekers guide as well. So if you don't want to wait until February 9th, you could take a look at that particular workshop
I'm just gonna
on
pop
your own.
that in the chat.
Excellent. So,
Yeah.
but we have a variety. Oh, and I didn't even mention my job seekers discussion group.
Yeah,
So we
Mary.
need, oh my goodness, my job seekers discussion group people are amazing. So the idea with that was that it's a place for like-minded individuals, so people who are looking for jobs, who, whether it's recently or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Some people have jobs and they're looking for their next gig. They get together and they provide
Oh,
support and advice. Sometimes we'll talk about what
I
a
have
lot
too
of
many
them have
tabs
been.
open. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Oh.
Some of them are taking Gary's workshop, so we
Mm-hmm.
might talk a little bit about Gary's workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and then we might go into, what kind of question do people have, and the people that are there give such great advice to each other. They're really
Mm-hmm.
you feel a really sense of camaraderie. So, and that happens once a month, and that from once a month from November until February, and then we
Mm-hmm.
go back to every other week
Okay.
in March until probably June, and then we'll go from there.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're a great bunch of people. So if you never know who you're going to get advice from. People have experienced different things, and so they're able to give good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would highly suggest that. It's
Mm-hmm.
very laid back. It's only an hour, so there's nothing formal. Occasionally, we will have a guest speaker,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't always have a guest speaker. Yeah, so
Okay.
sometimes we have guests from our department who might speak a little bit for a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great group of people.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
that's
it, it
great,
makes
Mary.
it makes my time, my week, my time listening
Oh.
to them. Yeah. So, and what I wish is that, for those who are job seeking or
Mm-hmm.
those who are looking to move up to their next position or to a different career, um, you know, keep keep hope in your mind. Just keep breathing. Keep looking forward. And you're going to have some tough days, but just
Mm-hmm.
remember that there are people out there that are wishing you well, and
Yeah, let us
hoping for
know.
the best. Let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know if you've actually used any of our services and
Mm-hmm.
you've gotten a job. Let us know. Would love to hear from you. I
Mm-hmm.
do hear from some of the people who have attended the workshops,
Mm-hmm.
and I've reviewed their resume. So, but let us know. We always like to know. We're always curious
Mm-hmm.
where our information goes. And
All
I
right.
think with that,
I think we're all set for the evening. So
excellent.
I have our contact information up. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. And if you're watching this on replay, thanks so much for listening slash watching. Um, yeah. Um, and
And
stay tuned for next year. We're hoping to have some more of these coffee talks on a variety of different topics on library services, community organizations, and businesses in the area. So it should be interesting. So, yeah,
thank you very much for everyone coming, and thank you for hosting me today, Amber.
no problem. Thanks so much, Mary.